as we'd pulled up, the look of my face was just horror. Tom and I walked around for an hour. The boat was coming back for us at 4. By 1 o'clock, we'd hired a boat to go back. It's disgusting, and I haven't been back for a few years, but it's disgusting, and the vendors have taken over. There's no beach, really.
Welcome to Fruiting Body Podcast with your host, Brendan. We have another massive legend of a guest. It is Sue Ultmann. Now, Sue is involved in various charities across the island of Phuket, and we discussed with her what she was involved in and more specifically, how she's helped out different orphanages and children in need, especially the one in Kamala at this school. I'm not going to share all the details with you. If you want to fast track this content, we have timestamps below in chapters, so that can allow you to see the piece of content that maybe you're looking for. Do not forget to like and subscribe. We are so grateful for this audience. We're growing exponentially every week, and we're hoping to break that 5,000 subscriber mark within the next month or so. Let's see what you guys can do with that. Let us know in the comments what you thought about Sue and her charity work, and just in general, what are your thoughts of Phuket and living in Thailand? I think that pretty much covers it all. This is shot a couple weeks after this intro from that podcast with Sue. Anything else? I think that pretty much wraps it up. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy the podcast.
Hi, Brendan.
Did I get it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm not even drinking coffee. I have tea.
I noticed that.
Well, first, thanks for joining us. I always forget to thank the guests. Very selfish of me.
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining. You're looking very lovely today. I hope the camera does it justice as well. This camera's a bit funny right now.
That's because I'm in the lens.
I'm looking a bit fat here. Okay, that's okay.
You are actually.
Oh,
yeah, it was.
Get this view off me. Go back to Sue. We're gonna jump right into it as we discussed before. Tell us about Sue Ultmann in Australia. What's your story?
Sue Ultmann in Australia, I can barely remember. I've spent pretty much the last 30 years in Asia, but going back to the dim dark ages, I'm originally from Melbourne, 7 generations up to me. There's now a few more, I guess. So, yeah, I'm an Aussie born and bred from Melbourne. Then I went to school. Didn't do anything great at school. I was not one of these people who went on to university and ended up with lots of degrees and things. I basically went to the school of hard knocks and did all of my learning or most of my learning after I left school. My first job was working at Channel 9 and 3AK, which was a television station and radio station in
Melbourne.
In Melbourne.
Did you ever cross paths then with Tim Newton?
Never.
Because he's also in Melbourne and he was also doing this as well.
Yeah.
He's been on the podcast twice.
Yeah, and Tim's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
Very good friend of mine. But no, Tim is a little bit younger than me. Not much, a little bit. And no, we never crossed our paths. But this was back when I was 18 years old.
Okay.
You know, so I sort of fell into advertising and really loved it. And I was in what they called the traffic department, which was scheduling of advertising in Channel 9. And then I worked in 3AK with doing logs for the radio announcers.
Just push the mic up a bit?
Yeah, sure.
Or, bring it to yourself. That's good. Perfect.
Better?
Yep.
Okay. And then I went into newspapers. And literally I worked in suburban newspapers for a while. Again, I wanted to get into sales. The problem was women did not do sales. They only worked in the office. They backed up the sales guys. But no, I wanted to be part of it. So eventually I left, and then I went and worked for Avis Rent-A-Car. And I ran 2 branches for Avis Rent-A-Car, and behind their backs I went out and did sales and built up these 2 branches from being the bottom in Australia to the 2 top branches in Australia by going around to local businesses, big businesses, like Penguin Books, and I spoke to them and said, why do you let your staff who come from interstate get taxis all the time? Why don't you rent cars? So I started getting them to rent cars and got into sales. I then applied for a job at a company called Peter Isaacson Publications, which was a company that did believe in women in sales. And I was about 25, I think. Well, maybe a bit younger, actually. And I was there for many years. They had many publications, a lot of trade, mainly trade publications, looked at all different industries. And I went in and boldly said, I want that publication, Travel Week. And the owner, Peter Isaacson, laughed at me. He said, yes, everybody wants Travel Week. It'll take you years to get Travel Week. So they gave me 3 publications to start with: Australian Hospital, Aviation News, and Graphics, which was printing, all totally male-dominated industries. And I went in and did really well, and to cut a long story short, 3 months later I got Travel Week, and it was the number 2 travel trade publication in Australia. And my goal was to make it number 1 within a year and keep it there, and that's what I did. I loved sales.
At this point, where you...
That's flogging advertising, basically.
But this is now obviously pre-Instagram days. I'm just messing around.
We didn't even have computers.
But when you're getting into the travel publication side, was there any attachment to Southeast Asia? Was there any, hey, where is this? Where is that located? And kind of pushing you towards here? I mean, again, I'm just kind of assuming.
So that's probably a long way up. What happened was just after I started with the Travel Week, the owner came to me one day, and he'd always done all of the international traveling. And he had some of the male salespeople doing some of it for him. And he came to me and he said, do you have a passport? And I said, no. He said, okay, we're getting you a passport. In 2 weeks' time, you're going to Fiji and you're going to go and sell advertising there. Okay, says me, so go. And first thing I had to find out was where was Fiji and a little bit of history on Fiji. Remember, no internet, no Google. We didn't have any of that. So you had to research the old-fashioned way, get out the atlas and basically go to the library and find out information. I went, And I'll never forget, my grandmother said to me, because this was a big deal, I'm going on this overseas trip. And she was devastated that I was going. And she said to me, promise me, you do not eat any foreign food and you don't speak to any foreigners. Little difficult. And of course, I've arrived in Fiji knowing nothing except that I'm only like 156 centimetres or 5 foot. And I've arrived over there and there's all these giants. Fijian people are very big people, and sort of, so it was a real eye-opener for me. And that was my first trip. And then from there, he started sending me around Asia.
What was it? What year was this? With your, maybe tilt it that way a bit towards, there we go. What was it? What year was this? You were going to Fiji?
Late 70s.
So
when they had coups and things.
Did you end up going back years later, or was that kind of it?
I used to go to Fiji at least 3 times a year. And in fact, my current husband and we were married there 31 years ago.
Well, this is a Thailand podcast, but I almost went to Fiji. I only have one regret in life. I didn't go to Fiji. I was living in Australia.
Right.
And the class at the end of the year was going to Fiji, and I got homesick. And I was a little bitch. And
I went home.
I went home. And it's the only, if someone says, what's your biggest regret? I'm like, I should have just went to Fiji because it's so hard to get to. But
It was. I loved it. It was like my second home.
Could you explain a little bit about, I mean, going in the 70s to today and watching that transition, maybe not just on the tourism side, but I'm going to assume on the diet side of the locals and watching them transition. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so Fiji was becoming a great destination for tourism. You know, it was one of the new up and coming, but really growing very, very quickly. Lots of great hotels, you know, the Regents, Sheratons and things like that. They did have political ups and downs there, and on a couple of occasions I went once, and then they had a coup, and just afterwards, and then I went back, and I worked very closely with the Fiji Tourism Bureau and the Fiji government, and I did a lot of promotion for them. They liked me a lot. In fact, when as I said, my second marriage, we were married there, and it was literally organised by the Fijian people and the foreigners who lived there, who I knew, hotel gyms and things. The food was always great. I love Fijian food, and there was quite good Western style food available. Also great Indian food, because at that time 51% of the population was Indian.
Really?
Yeah.
Why would that be?
They'd come many years before and to work there, and they were hard workers, and they lived and they multiplied.
Laborers.
Yeah, but they ended up really running all of the business and becoming 51% of the population.
Wow.
They then, with coups and few different little uprisings and things, a lot of Indians left. But there's still, I don't know what it is now, but I think it's probably around 48%. I'm guessing. So that it's a huge population. I mean, Fiji is owned by the Fijians, and I'm not sure of the laws these days, but you could lease land for a certain number of years, 90 years and things like that.
Are they very distinct, like as in like this whole Polynesian area? You have Samoans. Like, is there a big difference if you were to say a Fijian, if someone that's from Fijian?
Yeah.
And a Samoan, are they... I'm assuming they're probably rivals in sports and whatnot, but I mean, distinctly...
They're the same sort of... You can tell them apart, yes, if you're used to it. You know, it's like Asian people. A lot of people look at Asians and think they all look the same.
Yeah, but when you live here 30 years...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fijians, to me, are distinct, but they are big people. They're tall, and I'm very tall, and big-bodied people. You don't see too many slim Fijians, you know, and fit, and they love their sport, but they're very big, solid people.
When you're originally going there in the 70s, I mean, the transitions until these 5-star hotels started showing up as well. Could you explain that a little bit? Okay,
there were a lot of 5-star hotels when I first went there. It was already becoming it was very famous, and Australians were their biggest, and still today, Australians are their, I think, biggest number of tourists. I haven't been for a long time, and of course it's become a lot more modernized and things, but it's still, when I see different videos and things, it's still the same old Fiji, and they still have the same political problems. And in fact, what's interesting is there was a man who came into power during the coups back in the late 70s, and his name was Sitiveni Rambuka, and they all called him Rambo because it was at the early days of Rambo, the Rambo movies and slice of and he's just come back into power a week ago.
So he's got to be what, 70?
Oh, more. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So he came in there. He had a coup and he came into power, and he's always been in government and things, but now he's just come back into power again. So Fiji's like a lot of these countries. The political side rolls, and they have their good times and their bad times. But it's a beautiful country, and they have over 300 islands.
What was that drink? I tried
Kava.
Kava. Did you? I'm
Yangona.
assuming you've tried it. Obviously.
Yeah.
It's more like a downer or an opiate or.
It's made from the Yangona plant, which is a root, and they get the root and then they pound it into a powder and then they mix it with water, and then when you take it, when you drink it, if you just have one cup, it's not the greatest tasting thing, It's you sort of acquire a taste for it, but. It tastes a little bit like muddy water and looks like muddy water with something in it, but it numbs your tongue and your mouth and you chill out. Yeah, if you drink a lot of it.
What was the kind of cultural purpose of this drink? I mean, I'm assuming they've been using it for hundreds of years, right?
And they do, and they still do. And it's quite a ceremony. You don't just sort of sit down and say, "Hey, do you want a cup of kava?" Or you sit down and you sit in a circle and there is somebody who sits at the head and makes the kava, and then the bowl is passed around from one person to another. And that is the way it is always done, and it's the way it was, was done in the past. Like I said, it's not a matter of saying, like, would you like a cup of coffee? Would you like a cup of kava?
Mm-hmm. But it's used for like ceremonies?
Always for ceremonies.
Like as in like a harvest or...
You can just finish a football game.
Okay, there.
And you come home. Everyone, the footballers will all sit round and they'll drink kava or yangona. And I hope I haven't got any Fijians out there who are going to say, "Well, she hasn't quite got that right," but I'm pretty sure I've got it right. But yeah, it's I've had it on many occasions, but like I said, it's always it's a traditional thing. But
yeah, I had some friends when I was living in Queensland, Gold Coast, Southport area, going to university, and they brought it back, and I just remember it was like a muddy water. I think I had a sip or something, and
you went.
Yeah. Now to fast forward, so with your current husband, now he's involved in hotels. You said originally you guys came to Thailand and you're in Koh Samui. Can you explain that transition? What led you guys to coming here? Okay,
so this was the story I've been telling you is before I was with Tom. My son was 1.5 when I started with Travel Week, and for years I used to travel all the time internationally, mainly around Southeast Asia and South Pacific for Travel Week. But I've been to the States, I've been to Canada, and I just always enjoyed traveling. I could live anywhere. And when my son was about, I think 11, or maybe younger actually, I met Tom. I knew Tom. Tom was a hotelier in Australia. And then we got together, and one thing led to another. We actually met, even though we knew each other, we got together at a convention, let's say, as happens with some people. And he had always wanted to work in Asia. And then when we decided that we were going to get married, and my son was, how old was John? John was 15, I think, maybe a bit younger. And we decided, okay, let's go. I said to him, look for a job in Asia, and I only have 2 stipulations. I'm not going somewhere I'm going to get shot at, and it must have an airport. So we went, I was actually attending a conference in Hong Kong for the Pacific Asia Travel Association. And Tom came with me because he was looking for a new job, and he met some hoteliers there, and the next thing he was offered a job in Koh Samui. So
and what year was this approximately?
89, I think.
89, wow.
Yeah. I'm really bad on years. Tom's
what decade?
perfect.
What decade?
Yeah,
let's go decade here.
Tom's perfect. He's going to go, no, that was 92, you know.
So I mean, you've been coming to Thailand, and you can talk about that with the audience. You're talking, this is way before pre-tsunami.
Like, way before.
Kind of way before. Like nearly a trailblazer.
Well, I used to do a 7-week trip around Asia for Travel Week. And I would do Indonesia, and work my way from Australia to Indonesia and up through Singapore and Malaysia into Thailand, and hated Thailand, hated Indonesia. And I used to go to Jakarta and Bali. Very difficult to do business. Hated Thailand because back then it was a man's world. Women, I mean, I would walk into offices and I'd have appointments and they'd look at me and they'd say, "Oh, you're a woman." And I'd stand there and I'd go, "Yeah, oh." And it was difficult because even a lot of the business people were Thai. There were foreigners, of course, hotel GMs and things who I used to deal with, but everyone was always stunned when I walked in. You know, it was just, what's a woman doing here? And traveling on her own, you know. I had a lot of that. I used to have trouble checking into hotels. I'd be booked into 5-star hotels. I'd walk up to the reception and they'd look past me. Hong Kong especially was really difficult. Who are you traveling with? And I go, "You have my reservation." And I always laugh when, you know, and I shouldn't, but women complain today about how difficult it is in business and, you know, women have to fight for everything. Well, so fight for it.
When did that all start to change? Like the mid-90s?
It's always just been slow, you know, and I mean, I think women have got it, and people are going to come back about this. But
don't worry, we got like 8 viewers.
People, I think women complain much too much these days about lots of things. And so we're not going to get into too much into that, but I really do. It's my, you know, sort of suck it up and
so you're not a feminist or?
I am. I believe that salaries should be equal. If you're doing the same job that I'm doing, yes, we should get paid the same. I worked for a great guy, Peter Isaacson, in Australia, who did respect women and who, as I said, sent me travelling and things. We had a lot of females work in our company, and guys, equal salary. The guys got, you know, I was paid a certain salary, the guys were paid. The guys didn't get more than I did. We did the same job. And I think you had to fight for it then, and you have to fight for it now. You can't just go around complaining about it all the time. You know, do some, and if you're not happy about it, go somewhere else. Go and get a job somewhere else. But there's just, I guess that's another conversation.
That's the whole other YouTube.
Yeah. But Tom was then, you know, Tom and I, we've been married this next month will be 31 years. So it's our second marriage for both of us. And we moved from Australia. He moved first to Koh Samui, and then I told Peter Isaacson that I was resigning. And Peter Isaacson said, "No, you're not." And I said, "But I'm married now and I'm going to move to Koh Samui with my husband." He said, "No, you're not." He said, "You've been with me longer than you've been with him. You'll get over it." So it took me 5 months before I could actually leave. And then I took all of the Asian side of my job with me. He said to me, "Well, if you're going to be living in Asia, you may as well still keep working for us." And so that's what I did.
So you were the first digital nomad?
Probably, yes. Well, especially as I didn't even have a computer then. My secretary had a computer. So I got one of the first laptops. Yeah. Very interesting.
So you're in Koh Samui. I mean, let's say again, that could be it. This
no
podcast,
internet.
The first digital nomad officially. You're in Koh Samui. You're still working for Peter Isaacson, and specifically at this point, it's like travel publications.
Okay, so I took on, what I did is I set up my own company, and I took on other publications as well from around the world. I had publications like Der Spiegel, which is a very famous German publication. I had other international travel publications. I had publications from the UK, daily newspapers and things. So I had some really good publications. And I based myself sort of out of Hong Kong. But
What did that business...
not physically based myself.
What was that kind of business model like when you, and I'm not on the ad and publication side, so I'm just going to assume that you have these magazines, these publications, and you're reaching out to local, let's say, companies in Thailand to pay for advertising to get into them?
That's right. So the travel publications, mainly hotels and airlines were who we were, and people like the TAT.
Would this be publications that would go into let's say the back of the seat?
No.
Okay.
They were trade publications, so they were telling the travel industry, as in telling travel agents, what is happening in other countries. And so a lot of travel agents in Australia, the way they would get information about what was happening in Fiji and what different hotels were coming up, what changes were being made editorially, that would come into these publications, and these publications would be distributed to the travel trade.
Okay, so it's more or less like information, because pre-internet, information for the agents to be able to recommend to their clients.
Exactly.
So I'm in this, not this line of business, but business where people need to make decisions, and sometimes it's in the best interest for those people to write certain articles to promote certain things. Is that how this operated as well? Or I don't know how much you can share with me there. Okay, so to rephrase that, let's just be like straight to the point without going around in a circle. I have a hotel in Koh Samui. You're a publication. You make the decision if my hotel goes in there, and you have 3 other hotels, but you pick him because he makes good steak dinner.
Or he spends more money on advertising.
Is that usually how it is? At this point, like, you probably couldn't answer those questions 20 years ago, but
no, I can. There are a lot of publications who would sell advertising to get editorial. If you wanted to become the top in your game, you had to have strict editorial rules, so that the editorial department and the advertising department really didn't have a lot of communication. The editor and I from Travel Week, it took us a long time to trust each other and to get our teams to trust each other, so that if my staff were out, my sales staff were out, and they saw something was happening, that there was a refurbishment going on at a hotel, come in and tell the editorial team. If the editorial team saw something new coming up that could be good value for the advertising department, tell them. But it didn't mean that you sold advertising against editorial, because that was a no-no. That lowered the standard of your publication. You could sell advertorials. Now, that means that, okay, let's say the Sheraton decided they want to promote the new Sheraton Hotel, but they want a page of editorial. Now, it might not have the editorial value that our editors think. So they would pay for it, and they would get a page of advertising and a page of written editorial, but it would have a sign on that saying advertorial.
Like paid promotion.
Exactly. So you have to be careful. A lot of publications all around the world would sell advertising for editorial and things. And yes, of course, if we had an advertiser who buys 12 full pages in a year, of course you are going to support that, or look for good editorial, or get them to feed you editorial to.
Yeah, so it's I get it. It's more, you can't just be, let's say, selling out. And some guy's building a hotel, and hey, promote this hotel, it's coming in 2 months, and then the travel agent sells the hotel, and people show up and it's not even done.
That's right. Yeah, everything has to, and it has to be the quality of what it is. You know, it's like anything. You have to believe in your product. And if you're a salesperson, I mean, people always say to me, "Oh, you know, you're a top marketing person, you know, and all of this." And I go, "You know what? I'm a sales rep. I've always been a sales rep." And they look at you as if you're mad, and they say, "Oh, marketing and sales are 2 different things." They're not really. Yes, they are, but no, they're not, because you are selling a product. And marketing means you have to let people know about that product. and you have to sell it. They weave together. And when it comes down to it, it's all about selling that product, whatever it is.
They weave together, but both departments hate each other.
And that's when something doesn't work.
Right.
If you can work them together and have a sales and marketing department, which is the way hotels used to do it, then you're going to have a much better chance, I believe, in getting your product out there than if you've got the marketing department saying, oh no, well, we're the ones that, we get out there and market, and the sales department. You have to have good at everything. I used to, we had this meeting one time, my editor and myself, and we talked about it. And I said, let's get the editorial team and the sales and marketing team together. And I got up and I said, okay, I want to ask a question. What department is more important, the editorial or the sales department? Well, of course, the editorial said the editorial and the sales said the sales. And I said, you're wrong. You're equally as important. Without good journalists going out and writing good stories, no one is going to want to buy advertising. If you haven't got good salespeople going out and selling advertising and a lot of advertising to fill the spaces, there's nowhere to put the editorial. So that's why you need to work together, and everyone is equally as important.
And because you're in Samui, again, the first digital nomad, was this primarily in Koh Samui, or were you traveling around all of Thailand and Southeast Asia?
Well, my husband did say to me at one stage, do you realize that in the last 15 weeks, you have been away 13? I went, he said, you've only been back for a few days here and there.
So where were you going?
Oh, all around Asia. I just kept jumping on planes, and then I used to have to go to conventions and things as well. So I started cutting it back a little bit.
How was travel back then? I mean, today we got AirAsia. It's cheap as chips. We can hop around. There's always flights. In terms of coordination and getting from, I don't know, as simple as Koh Samui to Hong Kong. Can you talk about the challenges?
Yeah, no. Bangkok Airways had was operating. It had only just been operating a couple of years, I think, or a year. So I had Bangkok Airways to Bangkok, and then travel from Bangkok was easy. I mean, travel was great back then. Fortunately, I was always flying business class, and often got upgraded from business to first. Travel was nice. They weren't the discount airlines. I think travel had a lot more class back then than there's no class now. And
price-wise was still kind of like, obviously with inflation, but
I think it was expensive.
Expensive.
Yeah. Fortunately, I didn't pay, which was great.
Were people smoking on airplanes? When did that start? Mid-90s?
Oh, I'm a non-smoker.
Yeah.
And first of all, everyone smoked, and then they moved the smokers to the back of the plane. You didn't want to have to be the person who was in the first row after.
How bad was it? I can only imagine.
For me, it was horrendous.
It must have been just a hot box.
Yeah, but also the office I worked in at Peter Isaacson's, it was a huge newspaper office, an open plan.
So everyone,
with offices all around the outside, which I had one, and I think we had a couple of hundred people. I think there was 2 of us that didn't smoke. And I used to always say, you guys are going to I'm going to be the one that gets lung cancer. And which is another story.
Yeah, well, I mean, while we're there, do you want to share some information? You were, I think.
What about cancer?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. As I said, I always blamed them, said I was going to get it. And 3 years ago, I actually got cancer of the tongue, which is 80% of people that get cancer of the tongue is from smoking. So
you think it was primarily maybe from this career?
They believe, the doctors believe that I probably got it as secondhand smoking, yeah.
And this came, but how many years after kind of years? Like 20, 15 years?
Yeah. Well, they stopped. My office, Peter Isaacson was one of the first offices to stop smoking in the office. So everybody used to go outside and smoke, which was hilarious. and planes gradually started stopping it. I mean, people used to sneak cigarettes on planes, and it was hilarious. You'd smell them, and the hosties would be running around telling people not to do it, and then it just stopped.
And now they're just vaping everywhere.
And then the airport stopped it. And
I still don't understand the vaping. It's like you're still smoking in the room. Like, where do you think that's going? I mean, well, smoke your plastic stick. That's all right.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm from a family of smokers. I just always hated it. So I just never did it.
I would if I drink beer, I will. So, and I drink every day. No, I'm joking. I don't drink every day. So back, you're in Koh Samui in let's say for your husband's sake, let's say the early 90s.
Yeah.
So we don't mess up the dates.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what was Samui like back then, and how has it changed?
Oh, Samui was it was beautiful. There was nothing. There were no made roads. There was the Bandon Hospital, which was quite.
What do you mean no made roads? Like you're talking dirt roads, the whole place?
Yeah. There was a little bit of bitumen around a few areas, but not much. It flooded all the time, but I think Chawang still does. Chawang Beach was pristine.
And now?
It's disgusting, and I haven't been back for a few years, but it's disgusting, and the vendors have taken over. There's no beach, really. I mean, it was a beautiful white sandy beach. There were no high-rises. There was hardly any buildings, and it was at the beginning of a couple of five-star hotels. My husband, his hotel was a brand-new hotel.
Which one was it?
It was then called Samui Euphoria. It's now in Anantara.
Were the bigger hotels showing up, like your Hiltons, your Marriotts?
No, this is way before that. They were just starting to build a few hotels, and the first really well-known name would be the Centara Grand was being built. But there were a couple of other hotels that had already opened. There was a Dusit, and that was a really nice hotel. And then there was one other hotel. But there were a lot of smaller hotels, all Thai-owned. There was the Tavorn Group, which was a very well-known group in those days, and they had quite a few hotels along the beaches. So, I mean, there were a lot of hotels, but it was all very up and coming. There were no, we couldn't get bread. And then someone opened a bakery. There was a place called Palm Burger, a very, very, very poor relative of what we call McDonald's these days. You sometimes couldn't get wine. And all of a sudden someone said, wine's arrived, And this is for the hotels as well. It was very primitive. And it was a great place. People would sit on the beach and smoke dope and all of that sort of thing. So
you're coming from the kind of, I don't want to say hustle and bustle of Melbourne. I mean, Melbourne probably back then too. It's still a city.
Oh, no, it was hustle and bustle compared to...
Compared to, I mean, living in the jungle, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
You were okay with that? You adapted well? Knowing that, hey, I don't have wine, I don't have bread today.
No, I kept jumping on the plane.
and your husband, maybe that's why he's like, hey.
Well, he had, fortunately for him, every month he had to go up to Bangkok and he'd stay at the Four Seasons. Okay. He had a week every month, and he would do all sales trips with the agents in Bangkok. So, yeah, you had to get off the island.
So you never had that long, 3-4 month stretch of get me the hell out of here. That can kind of go through the.
No, that would have been very difficult.
When did you see the transition where Samui started to become an actual major destination in Thailand?
Well, we were only there for 2.5 years, and then we went to Malaysia and the Philippines. But it grew really quickly, too quickly, I think. And now it is. I went back 10 years ago and went, I'm never coming back. I couldn't believe how dirty the water was in Chawang, for instance. I mean, we walked into the water up to ankle deep and you couldn't see your feet, and I just went, There's huge developments there. Everyone tells me you have to come back again. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. And I do plan on going back sometime.
Do you think that idea, that concept, and a lot of, you hear it time and time again. I've been in Copenhagen, and you'll meet guys that have tell you the story of the 90s of Copenhagen and the 90s of Koh Samui. Is there anything in Thailand that remotely exists that you could still get that feeling? Some hidden island that maybe people aren't even aware of? Or is that mindset just gone?
Look, back in those days, and it was all the party era, back in the 90s, and Koh Phangan was famous, but there was no accommodation over there back then. You went over and you literally camped when you went to the full moon parties. I mean, full moon parties were huge back then, but everything was super casual. Now, again, everywhere there's resorts, and there's, you've got different levels. It's like Phi Phi Island. I mean, I just recently went to Phi Phi, and we were lucky. We stayed at the Sai Resort, which is around the bend from Tong Sai Bay. And
on Phi Phi or Raleigh?
Phi Phi.
Okay. Tong Sai.
Tong Sai.
Oh, okay.
The main.
Yes,
the main.
Got you.
Then we went by longtail boat around to Tong Sai Bay, and we were talking to a couple. I think they were from New Zealand, and when we arrived there, the first thing I saw was Burger King. And we got off this boat. Tom and I walked around for an hour, and the boat, that was about 11 o'clock. The boat was coming back for us at 4. By 1 o'clock, we'd hired a boat to go back.
Yeah,
and the next day, we saw this couple, and he said to me, "You caught a boat back early, didn't you?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "I said to my wife, will you look at her face?" And apparently, as we'd pulled up at Tong Sai Bay, I had the look of my face was just horror of Burger King, McDonald's, Coffee Club, banks. It was just, get me out of here.
Yeah, what that memory you've had of it in the past, it just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
and it's interesting living in I've been here 12 years. I find after 8 years you forget. You have to actually think about it. 12 years, and you have these amazing times at certain locations around wherever that is in Southeast Asia. And because it grows so fast here, I don't think they exist anymore when you go back. And I can say that about multiple places in the Philippines where you go back and you're like, I don't remember this being like that. I think the only one that's kind of holding true to itself right now is Raleigh and Tong Sai. Yeah. It's the only thing left that they're holding on a little bit. It's still it's rustic, but there's no, I hope to God that Burger King just doesn't show up there, but I don't think they can because it's quite difficult to get in there.
Yeah, and getting supplies and things. But, I mean, we went from, like I said, we were only there for 2.5 years in Koh Samui, and then we went to Malaysia for a few, 2.5 years, I think. And then Tom was offered a job in the Philippines, and we went to the Philippines. Again, I'm still tracking my body around Asia and different places, which was great. I was able to do all of that. And then where did we come? We went from the Philippines. We decided Tom had finished his job there, and we went to have a look in Bali. We thought we'll base ourselves somewhere for 3 months, 6 months. We'd always hated Bali. We went to Bali, stayed there for a month, still hated Bali, and came to Phuket. Thought, we'll have a look. We'd been here before, both of us, not together, never together. And after a month or so, we decided, we'll rent a house, and which we did. And then the next thing, he was offered another job in the Philippines. And I said, well, I'm not going back there. Well, actually, I did. I think I lasted a week when a friend of mine was launching a magazine in Bangkok. And he said to me, help, I need you. So I went to Bangkok, and a magazine which is still well known today in Bangkok and still going, The Big Chili.
The Big Chili.
Which is a magazine aimed at expats, and it's a lifestyle magazine.
But he went back to the Philippines?
Yeah.
And so did you have a home in Phuket and you're kind of based out running around a little bit?
Yeah. So I would go to the Philippines and then he'd come back to...
Yeah, the Philippines, I've been everywhere there. I think I might be done with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's just I feel it's just too difficult to get around when you want to really go somewhere.
Yeah.
And then once you get there, you don't want to be there that long either, because then you're bored in about 2 days. I mean,
it wasn't a place that ever grabbed me.
No.
I had some very good friends.
And the food is kind of...
Oh, I don't...
It's just meat. It's just like, do you want more rice with your pork or more pork with your rice? Pick one.
Yeah.
I don't know. The food's okay. It's nothing against Filipino food. I mean, but it's very just barbecue
Filipinos,
heavy.
Yeah.
It's very heavy.
They make lechon kawali, which is the crispy pork. That's good.
It's good there, but it's after a week, then you know how it is when you're in those places, and then a pasta, any whatever country you're in, they want to get. Oh, it's terrible.
But I think when I used to travel around Asia, and I mean, everyone it was always Asian food, and people would want me to try this and try that. All I wanted was a sandwich.
Yeah.
You want your own. It's like people come on holidays here, and yes, we want Thai food. After a couple of days of Thai food, they've had enough Thai food and they want Western food, or if they're Indians, they want Indian food, or different nationalities. They want their own cuisine.
And you feel bloated, I find.
Yeah.
If you're eating outdoor Thai food all day. We cook Thai food here, but it's clean and it's okay. And I think that's a great segue into working at Baan Rimpa. We were talking about that off the air before, and we both kind of agreed that no, Thai food is not healthy. I mean, they're dropping sugar and MSG and palm oils. Goldie was on the podcast and he explained, have you tried Baan Rimpa? And that's just a coincidence. I just kind of found out, you're the executive director?
I'm the executive manager and marketing director.
Can you explain why is Baan Rimpa? Why are they on another level than your average street food? And you got to pay for quality. So people can really understand and they stop going in and thinking they paid double the price for a pad thai. There's a reason for that.
Okay, so I'll just sort of run back to how I became involved with it. As I said, I've always been in magazines and everything. And I was in Bangkok. Tom finished his contract in the Philippines and came back to Phuket, and we decided, okay, let's retire. So he then actually was offered another job a little bit later, but I came back, and within 5 minutes, I was asked by a friend of mine, who's a guy, Bruce Stanley, who's a journalist who lives in Phuket. He said, Tom McNamara from Baan Rimpa. Now, Baan Rimpa had already been going for 12 years when I started. And he said he needs someone to sort out his advertising and his marketing. So I said, well, I'm on the other side of the fence. I sell advertising. And he said, no, he said, you'd be perfect. So I went and met this Tom McNamara, who I did know. And I will say, God rest his soul, he passed away 13, 14 years ago. But he was a loudmouth American. And but he had started, and people who know, and there's people around who know or knew Tom. And he was a bit of a heavy drinker and very aggressive. And I went and he said, I need you to come and do this. And I said, Tom, you and I won't get on. I said, I don't think I can work for you. And he said, well, look, just have a look at this. So I went over all of his advertising and his percentages and went, you advertise on everything and in everything and you pay full price for everything. This is not how you do it. He said, I know, but anyone comes in to sell me advertising, I say, okay. I said, yeah, you're the sort of person I love to sell to. So I agreed in the end that I'd work for him for 3 months. I must be very bad at my job because I've been there over 21 years, so I still haven't got the job right. I'm still working on it.
Or you love it?
Well, my job changed a lot, and I work very closely. I mean, Tom passed away, as I said. I've always helped with a lot of the family business that he had and things, and just got involved with different things. And he had cancer, He had cancer when I first started there, but unfortunately he passed away about 14 years ago. But he came to Thailand he'd had restaurants in other parts of the world, in the UK, the West Indies, the Bahamas, and he was a bit of a nomad and, an interesting character, interesting history. And he rented the house where the original Baan was and started having dinner parties. And people said to him, "Why don't you open a restaurant?" Tom had stayed at the Oriental in Bangkok for 3 months. 3 months or 6 months, I think, before. And he'd become very good friends with the general manager. And he managed to convince the general manager to loan him his head Thai chef to come down for 3 months and then to coordinate for another 3 months, I believe. And he came down and taught the staff Royal Thai cuisine. Now, you can't use the title Royal Thai cuisine unless the recipes, or a good percentage, come from the royal family. And this chef grew up with the royal family in Bangkok. His parents were actually chefs to the royal family. Oh. So he came down, taught Tom's chefs, and Tom started a small restaurant, which then grew to 200 seats.
And this was the original Bam Pa in Patong, and now it's kind of moved up to Kalim.
Moved up the road. We built a new one up the road, which opened about 7 years ago. However, and we operated the two of them until just before COVID. The original one, the buildings and land wasn't owned by our owners. So
how close is the menu, the original menu, to what it is today?
A lot of it is still the same. Obviously, things have changed, as in we haven't used MSG for years. We haven't used palm oil. It's because of the mix of cultures and things that we have. We're very careful with. We don't do halal food, but we have a lot of, because some of our staff, obviously, we have staff that are Muslim, staff that are Buddhist. All of our staff are Thai, and I'll make it clear, I work there. I don't own the restaurant. I am the only foreigner or Farang that works there. But it's very important to us that we can look after different requirements. The freshness of our food is very important. Washing the food is with clean water and all of those things is very important to us. Our location is a very expensive location. The building, just to keep it all operational, is very expensive. And all of those things come into the pricing, plus the training and everything. But our food is known as Royal Thai cuisine. However, we have also local dishes from southern Thailand, and we have different local specialities, and like chomawang, which is Thai dumpling, but it's this little purple dumpling that has minced chicken and crab inside.
Is
and
it like a dumpling or dim sum?
It's a tiny. No, you can't even explain it. I'd have to show you a picture of it. It's beautiful. Go to our website, baanrimpa.com, and you'll see pictures of some of the food, because it's really quite special. The presentation is very important to us.
And so you've been working there. That's been your main job ever since you really relocated permanently into Phuket.
And I'm still there now, as I said.
We were talking about now your charities and connecting that to Ban Ringpa. Can you explain how that first came together?
Sure. We always supported the local school. Ban Ringpa always supported the local Kalim school, which was a thatched roof school and very poor.
What is thatched roof?
Like grass roof.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
Just little. And the school is still there today, but it's a bit different since the tsunami, because we used to give food to them, and we used to give them lots of different things. But the tsunami hit, which affected, this is the Asian tsunami, affected all of that area, including our restaurants. We had also had a Japanese restaurant and an Italian restaurant next door to Ban Ringpa, and they were wiped out. the school was wiped out. So after the tsunami, a lot of money came in and the school was rebuilt. Beautiful buildings, much nicer than before. Money came from overseas and from the government. But the one thing we found out was that there was no English being taught, even though English is supposed to be taught in all schools. So my boss, Tom McNamara, said, let's put a charity together and hit the business people in Phuket who have made money in Phuket, who it's been good to them. So he called it Phuket Has Been Good to Us, hoping that he could get his friends to donate money, which they did. And then we realised these things actually take a lot more than that. So and it started to grow. So we did the Kalim school, and we set up a program there to teach, and they're all primary students there. And then that was 2006. Then we were asked by the huge school in Kamala. They came and said, we want you to do it in our school.
That's the big one right on the beach, right?
And we said, because again, they had been totally destroyed. There was the day of the tsunami, in fact, the day after the tsunami, they'd had a kindergarten school ready to open, but was opening the day after, fortunately. And that school was wiped.
Yeah, I had John on from the founder of Soy Dog, and he kind of told that story as well. And apparently there's a story about an elephant that saved a Swedish girl.
Oh yeah, that's a true story.
Yes, and it's I'm not saying it's funny, but I'm saying there's so many people that I've heard other podcasts and no one believes this. No, they don't believe that actually happened.
There was also an elephant at Le Meridian that saved a little boy. I mean, there's lots of really interesting stories, and I'm very cynical, but I was here when the tsunami happened, and I saw lots of things and heard lots of things afterwards that I would normally never believe.
Unless you saw it.
Never believe.
They said the animals just knew and they all went in.
All the dogs, the soy dogs from down on the beaches, they'd all left because we thought afterwards, all the dogs are going to have drowned and everything. They'd all gone. They had all headed for the hills, even though they're very territorial. They knew something was wrong.
It's strange how they know. It's whatever sixth sense they have. I mean, we do not.
No. Yeah. But I mean, again, I could go on with lots of stories.
Yeah,
about
I had
that,
a lady on. Her name's Pim. She is the managing director. Family owns PP Princess on PP Island. Mm-hmm. She was on, and we did kind of a whole podcast. A lot was about the tsunami and what happened during that time, especially at PP. And she was explaining to me that the local PP Island people, like talking like the boat people there, they're not even really sea gypsies. She says they have songs in their language, which is kind of like Malay.
That's correct.
About the tsunami, meaning the tsunami has probably hit this area who knows how many times in 500,000 years.
It did hit about 100 years ago. We know that. And yes, the sea gypsies have stories about it. And the sea gypsies, when it first hit, the first wave hit, they headed up, like I live in Rawai, so we have the sea gypsy village. They headed up the hills. And even after it was over, they stayed up there for about 2 weeks. People used to take food and drop food and water off because they wouldn't go back down. They knew all about tsunami from their readings and their songs and their stories.
Which is just passed on from, yes. maybe just a couple generations.
Yeah, but it's probably long generations. We don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. And back then, that's kind of the brink of technology where it was just starting to come into play, but we still didn't really have that.
Well, on the day the tsunami hit, I was at my house with a girlfriend of mine who usually comes over every year. And I remember how bright the sun was because I'd actually closed the curtains, and I never closed the curtains. And I no longer have curtains there. But the sky was so blue. And all of a sudden she said to me, "What's that noise?" And we went out and there were waves on my swimming pool. And I remember her saying, "Oh, Tom can use the boogie board I bought him for, and that was the earthquake, but we didn't realise. The next thing, my husband was GM of a villa resort in Carter, and he had to go over there, and he's one of these guys who always watches National Geographic, knows lots of things, and he saw the second wave and he knew it was a tsunami. And he rang, and at that stage, phones were going off everywhere, and so we sort of knew all about it.
You were kind of in Rawai at that time?
Yeah.
But that area, did it get hit hard?
Oh, yes, yeah. It was a low wave that came in. Okay. And my house is sort of, the Rawai beach is here, and then you come along the main road, and then it goes up a bit and goes down. My house is up here, fortunately, overlooking the water. Anyone on the same area but down low, like Friendship Beach and all of that, it all came through there. And Rawai, all of the boats came up onto the road. And
okay, there's more just the destruction.
Yeah.
But people, was it okay there, or is it just more destruction in that area?
Well, there was a good friend of ours, she died in Yanui.
Really?
Yeah, they had a house there, and her maid had called her and said there's water in the house. She wasn't living in the house at the time, so she went down to check what was wrong at the house, and she got caught in the second wave.
Yeah, because I don't think there probably haven't been many tsunamis worldwide in the past 50 years anyways.
Japan has, they have them all the time.
Indonesia as well, I think.
Yeah,
Indonesia,
yes.
they have more than, I think, 200 per year, something.
And Japan and India. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, of course, the Asian tsunami started in Indonesia.
Yeah, this was from the Sumatra Islands, right?
Yeah.
And then it kind of came out here. Yeah.
And it just built up more and more and the same as when it hit Phuket, as it went around the coast, the pressure built up more and more. And that's why as it went north and then up to Khao Lak, when it came in, the power was so strong, and it's a flat-lying area. So anyway, we should move on from that.
Well, I think we were connecting that with the Kamala school.
Okay.
So the Kamala school reached out to you, and then specifically, what happened from there?
So for us to do that, we had to raise more money. So we started doing fundraisers and raising more money, because what we have to do is we have to have, our teachers must be fluent in English. We don't have Thai teachers. Well, we do now. We have a couple of Thai teachers. But we usually have teachers who need work permits, visas, and then they get paid a salary, which is not like salaries in international schools, I can assure you. And we have to cover all of the costs for everything, for teaching aids, everything. We teach English for free. The only thing that the school provides us is the space. And our teachings are part of the curriculum. In the first year or two, it was just we were teaching English. But then it was obvious how good it was. So we're part of we have the CES program, and we're now teaching not just English, we're teaching science and mathematics in English as well. And we have... we have 5 teachers currently. We had 7, but we had to cut back financially. Times hit us.
When did that start at the Kamala school?
Only about 2 years after we started. So about 2008 or 9, yeah.
And it's a massive school.
It is a massive school. And when we started there, we were unaware of the fact that the school had a dormitory where a lot of the children that lived there were victims of the tsunami, that they either didn't have parents, they were orphans, or their parents couldn't take care of them. At the time, there was about 120 or so children. Now, you would think over the years, those children have grown up, and so there's that school now has more than 200 children living in that dormitory.
And how many kids are going to that school?
So about 700.
Wow.
But these kids, it's still happening all the time here, that there are a lot of orphans, there are a lot of parents who can't take care of their children, or maybe they're from the provinces, from poorer families in the provinces and things. So
I know there's a charity up by the Lock Palm Golf Course, and they're kind of like, it's for orphans, but mostly from the Patong area, because maybe their mother is this or their father is smoking that or whatever. But are you involved with that one as well? I forget the name of it.
Where is it?
It's basically if you're at the Lock Palm Golf Course and you're taking the back road to the British International School.
It's not Sunshine Village, is it?
Maybe.
I'm not sure. No, we sort of all try and help each other with different things. But it just takes a lot of time. We struggle a lot, and we have to raise funds all the time. I mean, people sort of go, "Oh, you must be a rich charity now. You make so much money from these events." The money comes in the front door and goes out the back door so fast, and we have to plan a year ahead, because we have to plan for our teachers and the programs for the students and the whole things. And we're definitely not a rich charity.
I mean, they need to understand with charities. I mean, like you said, you have to hire teachers. The money has to go somewhere. How does this thing run as well? I'm certain people, they can't do it for free as well. They need to survive.
Yeah. I mean, we have a director of operations who's been with us now for about 12 years, Tina. She is amazing. I'm the chairman of the board of managers, and that means nothing. But often people say to me, "Oh, so what salary do you get?" And I go, "I haven't made one satang in all the years. That's not what it's about. If you do these things, you do it because you want to do it." Yes, Tina earns a salary. She earns a salary because this is her job, and she works 7 days a week. She's on holidays at last in the UK to see her mother. Yet I'm on Facebook with her, every day, doing things. She's amazing. We have a wonderful head teacher, Jerlin, who is just super, and our teachers were great. We have we have a Thai teacher now who came from the Princess Songkhla University, and we have another one who's doing trainee as well.
Mentally, I'm assuming it must take a toll as well. I mean, you see the positive side when the greatness comes up, but obviously getting involved, you see maybe where they're starting from, and that can kind of hit home. How anyone working, especially in charity work, I'm assuming it's much different than charity work back home. But in these places where, there is poverty, these people are coming from difficult upbringings. How do you kind of not take that home with you?
Well, you do. I mean, it's not so difficult for me because I'm not there day in, day out. I mean, our teachers who are there, and they see some of these children and some of the very sad cases. I've seen children who are from mixed relations here. So the father has been of European and the mother's Thai, and the child's been growing up, and he's actually been going to international school. And then mother and father split up, and father goes back to his own country and leaves the child with the mother and not financially supported. And then the child's gone from going to one of the international schools, and all of a sudden he has ended up in our school, which is it's low-end school compared to what he's been used to. And it's devastating to see these children and what they go through mentally. It's really hard.
And they're too young to even understand it.
Yeah, but some of them aren't too young. Some of them, we're talking kids who might be like 10 or something, when they know exactly what's going on. So it's hard. I mean, we did for the kids who are at the school permanently, we do an after school and weekend program called Coconut Club. And we've done this for many, many years. And we do birthday parties every 3 months, and kids who have had their birthday, they get to have a party. We've always done it at different hotels. Different hotels have sponsored them for us. Unfortunately, because of what's just happened in the last couple of years, we haven't been able to do it. But we've started again, but we've been doing them at the school until things, get back to totally normal.
Primarily, where is the money coming from? Meaning, like, if people are watching this podcast, how could they donate? And even on your side, when you're doing that let's say marketing for the donations, how does that work?
Okay, so there's lots of different ways. Yes, you can just give money. You can make a donation, which is very easy. You can go to our website, which is PhuketHasBeenGoodToUs.org. You can sponsor a child for a year, and it's actually very reasonable. It's 10,000 baht, and you get information from the teacher a couple of times a year about the child and what the child's doing, how they're doing with their grades and things. We always want to sponsor more children. If you're wanting to make a larger donation, you can sponsor a teacher, because we need our teachers sponsored, but it's not something that happens very often. We've had different companies, major sponsor over the years, who have every year give us donations. Some of those companies have been hit because of the recent events, so they're not supporting us now. We have some people who have been with us for many years who just regularly give us donations because they've seen what we've done, and because we are very open with all of our expenses and things. If people want to know where the money goes, we show them that our administration costs are as low as they possibly can be, because and we're very, very transparent about the whole thing.
And what about if people want to donate their own time? Is that possible? Like if they have weekend time, or does it work like this in any way?
No, you can't do that because one, it's confusing for the children. If people are coming in, because we are teaching. It's like any school, we're teaching. So we don't allow visitors to come into the class. Otherwise it disrupts the class, or very rarely do we, unless they're major donors, then we might, sort of
there we go.
Allow
a million
something.
baht, you can come in the class.
You can come in, please.
And have a lesson. Watch a lesson.
There you go.
Yeah.
Only 1 million. That's it. There you go.
We can allow them. We hope to allow them soon to come into Coconut Club again. Again, we're still very careful with different things. With the kids, we have to be very protective as well, because of there was a history back after the tsunami of a lot of bad things happening with children, and that's why the Thai government have made it very strict on volunteer visas and things like that.
Yeah, people can take advantage of them and whatnot. Now, Phuket has been good to us. We've touched on the two schools that you've been involved with, both initially starting in Kalim and now in Kamala as well. Are there other charities that branch out of this? Because we will jump into Living Waters Phuket, but is there anything else specific that people should understand or know about at Phuket Has Been Good to Us?
I just think it's very important to know that even though Phuket looks as though it's quite a wealthy place, and yes, there are a lot of wealthy Thais and things, there are a lot of very poor areas still in Phuket, and a lot of people who struggle, and that's why we, as I said, we have 200 children, or more than 200 in the dormitory. We need support. These children do need to have English language to be able to advance in their future. If it wasn't for our programs, which have proven to work, we've got some of the highest numbers in our CES programs. So we need to continue, and to continue, we need money. If you are coming on holidays and you want to bring things over, often people bring over things. Please contact Tina, which you can get her address at on the website, and she will tell you items that would be great to bring over. These can be things like notepads, pens, pencils.
Don't bring candy.
Don't bring candy. But just different things that are great, because also we have computer lab, which we'll talk about with Living Waters. But we have competitions for the kids, and we give them simple gifts, birthday presents. These children don't have the gifts that our kids would normally get in these birthday parties like that. I mean, when we have a birthday party, it's for a whole group of children. They're allowed to bring one friend, and they do get a small gift that somebody's donated. We've had things like shampoos and hair conditioners and toothbrushes and things that have been collected from hotels. So simple things.
Bring them a football. They'll probably love it. There you go.
Oh, sports equipment anytime. Bring sports equipment.
Yeah.
Bring shorts, boys' shorts. Please bring nice, clean clothing and things.
And could people that are living on the island, are they able to bring stuff to donate, or would they kind of go through the website and coordinate from there?
Yeah, a lot of people here do. They contact us, and often on Facebook they'll ask us. And yeah, I mean, we need things all the time. It's an ongoing thing because the kids are growing all the time.
Meaning more just like, don't go to Decathlon, fill up a truck and just show up at the school and then drop it. Like at least let's do some coordination.
It has to go to our charity office, and then we organise things. But the best thing, like I said, is contact us. Say, hey, listen, we've got such and such. We've got some computers. Now, we can't have things, and often it's happened to us where someone comes on and says, look, I've got this computer. It just needs to be.
Yeah.
Now, we have no money to fix things. We don't have the funds to repair things. We don't want the old junk.
Make sure Windows is installed.
Yes.
It's ready to go, and they can turn it on.
And it's clean.
Don't show up with a power supply and a screen and say, if you just tweak this and...
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how many have done that. Clothing, it must be clean and simple clothing, shorts.
No underwear.
No, we don't want underwear, and we don't want bikinis.
Yeah.
But
and also probably keep in mind that I would assume the majority of the students are probably Muslim as well, because Kamala in this area.
Yes, a lot of Muslims. So yeah, we have to be careful with all of that. And we also teach now at the kindergarten in Kamala.
The Sunshine, or what's it called? Rising Star?
Yeah. It's a government run.
Oh, government. Okay, no, I was thinking of Rising Star.
No, it's the government run. And they came to us and said, we want an English teacher. And we said, we can't support it because it's, you're funding this, and they said, we will pay for a teacher. So they're actually paying for us to put a teacher in because they've watched the program in the school, and, which is great.
So now
because
you have one
these
there.
children, we have a full-time teacher there. And these children will go into the school, and they'll already have some knowledge of English when they start school.
Yeah, and especially at that, you got to get them young as well. The most difficult challenge, I would assume, it's yes, you can have English teachers in English class. The problem is the second you leave the class, you go back to your native tongue, and it's very hard to continue in a second language. I'm saying that more from a perspective. I've lived in China, picking this up, but when you leave those environments, it's really hard to keep using it.
And not every child cares. Not every child wants to learn English. It's like anything. Some will come in the front door and out the back door exactly the same. But where we saw something that was fantastic, during the lockdown periods and everything here, we thought our teachers were going to try and teach online, and we didn't think it would work. We were amazed. Our teachers actually, our best area for our Wi-Fi was up on the roof of our office. So the teachers went up there and set up computers. A lot of our students don't have computers at home. So we got telephones donated, and we went round in the mornings, would drop them off, and there would be sometimes 5 children on one telephone doing a class. We had 70% of our children doing online learning.
Sue, sorry, do you have some kind of psychological support for these kids as well?
We don't, no, not through our charity. Our goal is to teach English to underprivileged children who wouldn't have the opportunity.
And then on that side, I'm assuming, then they also have their Thai teachers that kind of help them out.
Yes.
Because this is a government school at the end of the day.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I want to jump into living. How long have we been recording?
120.
120. Oh, okay.
Oh, we keep talking.
Yeah, it keeps going. It's okay. That's why it's good about a podcast. It just keeps rolling. Keeps rolling, baby.
When the conversation is amazing, it goes, you don't even realize. Amazing.
It goes fast. Sometimes they can go 2 hours. We'll try to wrap it up in about 10-15. The main reason is what we tried to do, we found is we actually need to keep it under an hour and 19 minutes. This is the YouTube algorithm. So we'll try to keep it under another 15. The second you get too high, YouTube won't push it.
Okay, stop talking.
Yeah, you know what? It's all me. Just leave a comment if we could just delete all my scenes. Hans, you got some editing to do. Let's move forward and then connect now with Living Waters Phuket and how you guys are all involved in working with Sean. So first, thanks to Sean Stenning at 5-Star Marine. You probably saw an ad before that was cut in. And 5-Star Marine, they're a private VIP boat tour company on the island of Phuket. So big thanks to Sean Stenning, and they're supporting this podcast. Again, for his support, I did it in a way, it's like, just help us get the overhead going so I can focus on some other stuff as well to be able to grow this. So big shout out to 5-Star, big shout out to Sean Stenning, and he's been on twice now. Can you go through that connection with Living Waters Phuket and how that came together?
Yeah, sure. I haven't known Sean all that long, really. When in recent times, when there were people who didn't have food, and a group of people got together, Andrea Edwards put it together, called One Phuket.
Yes.
And we're looking at trying to help people. How are we going to do it? How are we going to help people? Let's make food bags. And then she already found out that there was this guy, Sean Stenning, from 5-Star Marine, who was doing life bags, and he was already involved. He had it all set up and was doing a great job. So he came to this meeting, and Andrea had asked me to be on part of this One Phuket because of my history, and I said, sure, let's get together, see what we can do. And that is how I originally met Sean. We worked closely together with a lot of the involvement with getting life bags together
during that
time.
Yeah.
And
I think a very special shout out to Nando as well, because they did it all over at Sutai.
That's right.
Nando was our first guest ever on the show.
Well, yeah.
So Nando was a huge part of that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I didn't know Nando either. And then when Sean decided to start Living Waters Phuket, he asked Nando and he asked myself to be on a board with him to help him make decisions. Because one, I've been in Phuket a long time, a lot longer than any of them. So I know a lot of history about people here, different organizations and things, more than Sean did. And he wanted my knowledge on those things. Nando is just such a super guy. So we make a great team. And we also have a wonderful other couple, Peter and Nina, who just super people. And we got together and that's how we...
I know there wasn't a website, there wasn't a foundation at that level. They just you had to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, because I'm living here, so I saw it every day of what was going on down there. I was locked out, though, at that time. When they were doing that there, I was stuck. I got stuck in another district, the one by Blue Tree. So I couldn't even get back home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, it's a funny story. I didn't get back home. I was staying at a ex-girlfriend's house, and they're like, well, you better get back home. I'm like, yeah, I'll go tomorrow. And then one day I went to go back. The gate was closed. I couldn't get in. I couldn't pass one of the roadblocks. Anyways, so that came together. They were doing the life bags. Chris Parker came in.
Yes.
He was on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
He did a big part to help out. And Chris does great stuff Pay It Forward. So shout out to Retired Working For You, Chris Parker and Adam Parker as well. They are doing awesome work, especially on the island of Koh Samui. I think go check out his YouTube channel, Retired Working For You. He's got tons of subscribers doing great stuff. Now, at which point did this charity become kind of official to what it is, Living Waters Phuket, and the extra stuff now that they are doing?
Okay. It was all very fast. I mean, literally Sean was doing all of these things himself through 5-Star Marine. And then he decided to start Living Waters Phuket and asked us to come on board. And what we do is we assess different projects. So people, different charities who might need something. For instance, Phuket has been good to us. Living Waters has supported with a fabulous computer lab. There was a group of people who had money who wanted to invest in a project. They saw this project was viable, it was all checked out, and they donated 12 fabulous laptops. And now we have computer classes at the school for a certain number of our students, which is amazing to watch and see the classes that have been put together. I mean, it's...
Well, I was checking there's a lot of other charities as well. Like I saw they were involved with like sewing and teaching people to sew.
Right. Seeds of Change is just a
Correct.
recent,
Yeah.
and I've been involved quite heavily with that.
Sorry, I'll interrupt quick. That's what Mika introduced me. She said, hey, you should check out Seed to Change. So are you primarily involved with that as well?
I'm involved. I have been quite involved with it. And the involvement for me was, I know the people the ladies who have just been doing this for many years actually, but they've just started to grow. They make all of these wonderful elephants of all different sizes, little tiny ones, medium-sized ones, big ones, and they started to sell them and started to put them in shops, and then they started making bags and baskets and different products. And what they're doing is they're teaching, maybe what happens is ladies who maybe have a job, they get pregnant, they lose their job because they can't work and look after a child.
A lot of Burmese workers as well.
Yeah, but a lot of Thai workers. And so we don't. They teach, Sam and her group teach these ladies how to sew. And it's a 3-month course. I think it's 3 months. And then after that, they have the opportunity of either they've learned a trade. They can go and start their own business, or they can now be employed by Seeds of Change to make more product, because we're now trying to get more hotels and more places, outlets for these products to be sold. And they are beautiful, high quality, sustainable products. All of the materials are donated. For instance, I've just donated a whole lot of my silk curtains. That the silk curtains needed to be replaced, but the material's been fine to use for different patchwork things. Tim Newton donated all of his shirts, all those bright coloured shirts.
Beautiful.
And there's now a big elephant, and that we hope to be auctioning that off. But the product is superb, and what it's doing is teaching these ladies. Now, they've just had one room to work out of, so it's never grown. They needed a better venue. And this is where Living Waters came in, and Sean came to me and he said, we have found this location. And it was the location of Life Home Project. But Life Home Project had changed their direction and were moving out of it. It's a very big, huge area. It has lots of different buildings, including accommodation buildings. And Sean asked me if I knew anybody, and I said, yes, I know everybody on the board. And so I put a proposal together and put a proposal to the board, along with the proposal from Sam from Seeds of Change, and really hit them, and that we wanted this place for 3 years for virtually nothing, because this is a charity and another charity, and they've come, the board of Life Home Project came to the party and gave us a very, very good deal, and we got a working bee together. We had kids from the different Head Start and from British School come in and help clean. We had lots of local people. We just did this working bee over a weekend, and people came in and painted and cleaned and sand washed and did everything. And now it's all up and running, and it's now expanding.
And when they're selling these, it's going back into the charity, or how does that work?
The money comes in and goes back in. Obviously, has to pay for the rent now, but goes back in, and to make more product and to pay if we have these ladies who have already learnt but they want to stay and work, then get paid a salary. So everything goes back into it. It's just and the more we can do this, the bigger we can grow. Different hotels, like there's a Novotel down in Carter that has given us a shop. I say us, I shouldn't. Seeds of Change, a shop. There's now the banyan tree sells them, and it's their best-selling product. These are beautiful.
And there's obviously the story behind it when you arrive and see what you're purchasing, and you can understand.
And, you know, people are always looking for locally made products to take home, and they get sick of a lot of the rubbish that is around. And I mean, a lot of it is rubbish.
Well,
these are beautiful.
I'm sorry, if you go if you go to any tourist shop, none of that's even from here.
No.
It's all from China.
Well, a lot of it isn't. There are things that are handmade, and there's some great products. There's some products that can't be transported back to certain countries. Australia's very strict, whereas everything that is made with these from Seeds of Change can be transported to other countries. And these elephants are just wonderful presents. Everything from a little key ring that everybody loves to have. They're not for kids. They're not for an age. When the governor and his wife came and opened the project, Sam gave them 2 specially made elephants, and they were delighted.
How are you able to balance this all? So many hats. I mean, this is you must be.
I don't do that much. Okay. It's the other people that do all the work. They do all the hands-on work. I try and do what I can to help in as many ways as possible, because I think these things are really worthwhile. But it's people like Sam and Tina who are the hands-on people. I'm just their
advisor.
Somebody needs me to do things.
And what else is under this umbrella? Because I know now you guys, when Phuket had the floods, that's why I brought Sean on to discuss that. I mean, pretty much anything and everything in Phuket where you guys can assist and help out, you can. Is there anything else that people could be aware of? Well,
I think, with Living Waters, we look at projects all the time, and then we try and get financial support to help those projects. One of the projects that we did not that long ago was putting the sunroofs,
like solar panels?
Solar panels, thank you.
There we go.
Solar panels on the roof
Teamwork
of
here.
a school. Yeah, absolutely. On the roof of one of the schools. We look for projects, but we have to, raise the money. We have to make people aware and try and get money for Life Home projects, for Living Waters, to try and do more projects. A lot of the projects we do, we want the organisations themselves to put in 50%, and we'll put in 50% to give them the goal to try and raise some of the money. However, some of them can't do that. So we analyse what we think is
and you're also, if any, let's say a potential charity, someone has an idea, okay, I want to start a charity for maybe orphans and to give them a place to live. And besides the school side, and maybe they're or abandoned children, which there are a lot. You can see them around the different areas of Phuket. And if they had this concept to start their own charity and they would be involved and manage it, would they come to you guys and ask for help and an assistant in regards to the consultation?
If they came and just wanted to have a chat.
Okay.
But we would not support, it would be too much work, because there's been too many charities over the years and recent years that have come and gone and have actually come and made money, done and run off with money and done lots of bad.
Have you seen that a lot in Thailand?
Yes.
Where people come in and
a lot.
A lot.
And that's why you have to be very careful. If you are going to donate, it's the same anywhere.
Do you see those, like, when you see them come in, is it a red flag, or do they kind of put on that sociopathic face and they're able to trick you and
No,
pull
I've
the
seen
wool?
some amazing, very astute business people over the years come in and set up charities, and you would think that they were
Legitimate?
really legitimate, and then they've run off with the money. And
They can pull the
things.
wool right over your eyes.
You have to, I mean, look at charity. If you're going to give money to charities, always
Do the research.
be aware, do the research, and make sure that they are legitimate and that they have been around for a time. To set up a new charity is not easy. It's very
even to
difficult.
get approved in Thailand.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
And I mean, Phuket has been good to us, is an official registered charity. And it's now been going since 2006.
Yeah, because these people can come in and just start a charity and put a little link on WeBoom and grab your money.
Yeah.
WeBoom's a bit, I get it, but it's a bit, you got to be careful what you're donating. It's almost just like crowdsourcing. You're just getting crowdfunding. What are your thoughts on some of these? We'll wrap it up in 5 minutes. What are your thoughts on some of these I have my opinions on these elephant parks that come in and say they're charities. There must be a lot of bullshit ones out there.
Ooh.
I don't even know. Is elephants on the list of like things you can't talk about either? Like those elephant parks?
Look, there's good ones and there's bad ones. One, I don't believe in, as most people, in riding elephants anymore. You know, we've gone through all of these different stages over the years. Yes, 30 years ago or 40 years ago, I rode an elethere. You know,
So
it was
did
part
I,
of
15 years ago. You didn't know?
No, and times change and we become more aware. There are places here that are doing wonderful work with elephants. I would rather see, and I'm probably the wrong person because I'm not involved enough with it, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes. But there are people doing wonderful things with elephants. You can't just let them go out into the wild and say, let them all go free. But I don't like seeing elephants chained up ever. Or any animals and things.
See that I have always. It's sad to see the one play. Hopefully, I don't get shot for this one. That's sad to see when when you drive to pretty much like after you've left Kamala and then you're coming down and you're going to go up the hill to Kalim and you see them chained on the left. Whatever that place is cannot be good. Okay, no comment.
My office,
you probably
Baan Power is very close to it.
Farang or Tyoned or I'm going to assume it's probably okay. Anyway, so we all want to survive. We won't go
deep.
I
did a guided tour with some Brazilian people in one elephant sanctuary, and the lady was explaining that by law here in Thailand they have to have a house, their room, yes, or they need to be. You just
chained up?
Yes, in something. They cannot be, especially to sleep, yes, they cannot.
Well, I think there's a guy, Cam, he's doing Phuket Elephant Sanctuary. It's kind of up here. This one I think is
nice.
They're saying that they basically, the money they raise, it's like it's not cheap to keep an elephant.
No.
You got to feed these things. So a lot of the money goes. Of course they're going to make profits. I mean, they got to eat too.
And they eat 18 hours per day. They eat.
But I mean, the people to run the business as well, like they need to survive.
Sure.
And
look, I think there's a group of people around at the moment who are really involved with these different elephant parks, and some of them are great and some of them aren't. Nothing ever happens overnight. It's a long-term thing. You can't just unchain. I can't walk along and unchain all of the elephants.
No.
Otherwise, we're going to have elephants getting hit by cars and attacking people and doing things because we don't know about elephants. I mean, it's great for me to say I don't like seeing elephants chained. Nobody likes to see any animal chained up. But by just going along and unchaining them doesn't solve the problem. Or saying we'll close down all of the elephant riding places. There has to be a solution for where the elephants go.
Yeah.
And this is all these things take years. And those people who work in those elephant parks have to, because the elephants have to have a mahut to look after them. So, you know, these are long-term
And they have to be
things.
with them. It's Mahut.
Mahut.
And they say that the Mahut family take look after the elephant for the whole life.
That's
Yeah,
right.
since they're a baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's good. I guess there's good ones and bad ones as well. But you know, there's a lot of elephants around, and I don't believe that you can just take them all out into the bush and let them all go. Yeah. But I'm not an elephant expert.
Neither am I.
Yeah. So you know.
On that note, we will wrap it up. Actually, I got a quick call in 12 minutes. Today has been a wild day. I always get low. What was I saying? Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Before we cut it out, we're going to kick it back to this camera here, Sue.
Yes.
And if you can just stare into the soul of your followers and let them know where they can find you and all the charity stuff you're doing as well. We'll also leave links in the description. So without further ado, Sue, take it away.
Okay, well, Baanrimpa, I'd love you to have a look at the website, which is baanrimpa.com, BAANRIMPA.com. It's a beautiful restaurant. Phuket has been good to us.org, and I think Living Waters is Phuket is also it's something you should all have a look at. Facebook pages, the whole lot, you'll find us. And thank you, Brendan, for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Phuket has been good to us. Living Waters, Phuket. I think you can use this new website called Google. It works really well.
Yeah, so
if you type it in, wow, it's amazing.
It's a bit different from when I first started.
It makes life much easier in the research. I cannot even. I'm always interested to learn how the business was back then, because for me, it blows my mind. Like without computers and emails and text. Oh my God, it must have been very slow back then.
No, it was normal.
Yeah. Well, that ends another episode. What else do we want you to do? Oh, yeah, just subscribe. That's all we're asking for. Comment a little bit and maybe share. All right, we're out.
Nice comments.
Yeah, nice comments. Nothing against us. All right, we're out. Mushroom supplements coming out in case they already are not. So you can check that out to support us. We are the only medicinal mushroom supplement company in Thailand that's doing these 10-to-1 extracts of this quality. Everything is sourced by me. And it's amazing. I don't know. I'm not a good salesman when I'm not on the spot, and I think I need a coffee. Okay, we're out.